Did you know the average person has over 30,000 thoughts a day? Or if you're like me, an extrovert, you may be processing 50,000 thoughts a day. So I have a question for you. How many of those 30,000 or 50,000 thoughts do you have control of? Do you know if we have an uncontrolled thought life that we are creating the conditions for illness? We can actually be making ourselves sick by what we are thinking. Research shows that fear alone triggers over 1,400 known physical and chemical responses in our body, and it activates more than 30 different hormones. So in addition to biblical and spiritual reasons for us to actually stop worrying and stop anxiety and to forgive and to quit living in fear and all the other negative and toxic thoughts, there are actually intellectual and medical reasons for doing so. But how do we get a grip on these toxic thoughts? Two biblical principles let us know how very important our mind is. The first one is capture your thoughts. 2 Corinthians 10:5 tells us, take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. And the second biblical principle is to renew your mind. Romans 12:2 tells us, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. The way that we are supposed to live in peak joy that God designed us for is by choosing every moment with every thought to rewire it if necessary in order to renew our mind. When we do so, this is the lifestyle that will bring us closer in alignment with the way God created us to be. You see, we're made in His image. And so we want to capture our thoughts and renew our mind so they are in line with the way that God thinks. There's a classic fable where this grandfather is telling his grandson about two wolves that live inside his heart. He said, one is wise and kind, and the other is vicious and cruel. And the grandson asks, which one will win? The grandfather says, the one I feed. So I ask you, which one are you feeding? We can answer that question by looking at how we approach situations. There are two ways to approach any situation. And the first one is to make just a reaction, just to respond with our emotional feelings and to maybe react in a negative way based on how we feel at the moment. Or we can actually have a thoughtful, intentional response. This would be proactive, and it would be intentional and biblical. So when we think back on the thoughts that we've had today, then we want to ask ourselves, how many of those have I captured and had control of? If you're interested in learning more about checking your thoughts and getting rid of toxic thinking, I'd ask you to subscribe to my YouTube channel at Dr. Kathy Robbs Baker, and to look at some of the lessons I have been giving on overcoming our toxic thinking. When we do so, we are living forward.